everybody, I'm the Reading Tortie and welcome back to my channel. Today, we'll actually be doing the topic of discussion for the book Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman, whose name I'm sure I'm still butchering and I'm so sorry about that. This topic of discussion is different from the review in that it should be less gushy. We'll see how that goes. I actually have a checklist that I should be able to maintain this within a sensible amount of time. Topic of discussion for Call Me By Your Name. And I've decided that for this topic of discussion, I'm going to pretty much be addressing, I guess, the concerns that people have had with the book. Because I like it so much, I could just go on and on about it, but instead of doing that, I'll just address the things that I've seen that have been negative about it, that I really don't see, but might be a cause for concern. Spoiler-free, this book is just so different. There really are no spoilers. It's just a good story, and you read it for the sake of the good story, and I guess some people don't really appreciate that or want to do that. So, on to topic number 1. I took out my little note card because previously in my gushiness, I was a derp and did not address the publisher because I like just calling out the publisher. So, it's Call Me By Your Name is the name of the book by Andre Aciman. I'm sorry, sir. I butcher your name every time. The publisher was Ferrara, Strauss, and Giroux. I'm sure I butchered that too. And it was published in 2007. It's on Goodreads. It is shelved under LGBTQ, queer, gay fiction. So that is what this has been shelved as by quite a few people. And it has mostly 5-star reviews, if not over 4 at least. But there are some that have issues that I think would have bothered me if I hadn't been so obsessed with the book. But since I was, I kind of forgot that they should have bothered me. So this is also the first book that I bought at Book People. And I will leave a link to them in the text box section, description box below. I had initially wanted to buy this before the time I actually bought it. But I'm ashamed to say that I was afraid I wouldn't like it. It's shameful, but it happened. And I ended up checking it out in my public library. And then immediately I felt guilt for not insta-buying this book. And immediately went back and bought it at Book People because this book needs to be bought at Book People. So, first book that I ever bought at Book People. Next thing I want to discuss is one of the negativities I heard about it, which was that it was very slow, introspective, and not enough dialogue. I addressed this during the review, that it is mostly introspective, and it's mostly Elio thinking about Oliver and Oliver's role in his life. So, if you're not in love with the characters, it will probably get old very quickly, because you're in the mind of a 17-year-old boy, and not everything is in chronological order. Like memories usually aren't, and it's borderline obsessive in the first part because he's still trying to understand the relationship between himself and Oliver. So it is a tad bit slow. I reveled in it. Like every excessive word that was used, every analogy that went so far, I absolutely loved. So for me, it wasn't a problem. But for people that I guess want a quicker paced book, this is not the book for you. And unless you really love the characters, you might be able to look past it. I just want a good story and a good read. And I just happen to be in love with these characters, so none of this bothered me. But it is a concern that this is very dialogue not heavy. There's dialogue, just sometimes you don't know whose it is. And it is a little slow. So introspection kind of happens. You're confused sometimes. It's lovely confusion, but you're confused nonetheless, and it bothers some people. So, if that might bother you, you might have a bit of a hiccup with the book. Another concern that kept popping up is the wishy-washy feelings between Oliver and Elio. They were kind of with each other, and then kind of not with each other, and then they were kind of with the chick and the neighbor chick, whose name I forgot, and I believe her name was Marcia. I could be wrong. She was a very lovely girl. But I don't think it's a bad thing because it wasn't, just insta-love the way we see in some instances where, they see each other and that is my soulmate. I know that is my soulmate, even though I don't know their first name. This book is very, I like you, you like me, but we're not obsessed with each other. So it's a relatively healthy, youthful relationship riddled in trepidation and insecurities. So I don't think their wishy-washy feelings are really a problem. And I think it's, like I said, genuine and realistic. Elio is 17. What 17-year-old is like, yes, this person that doesn't really acknowledge me for a good portion of the story is the love of my life and he is my infinite. It's not like that. And Oliver, likewise, he has other stuff that he wants to distract himself with. And Elio wants to distract himself too. So it's just one of those things that I think it's just a regular love story. And it's not the ideal love story. And they are flawed characters. You don't like Elio and Oliver all the time. Frankly, who do you like all the time? I don't like anybody all the time. It's just a thing. So for these characters to be flawed, I think is perfectly fine and natural and realistic. So yeah, they do have wishy-washy feelings. But underneath it all, those wishy-washy feelings are just their insecurities and wondering, can we do this? How far is it going to go? Is it going to change me for the rest of my life? And then it does. And it's like, dang it, this is what I was fearing, but we're in too deep, and this is how it is. That's all there is to it. So, wishy-washy feelings, I think, are just the first steps to acknowledging that this is the love of your life that you probably won't be with for the rest of your life. So, that's why I forgive them. And because I'm in love with them. So that could be it too. Take that with a grain of salt. The next issue that I keep reading about is, okay, so Elio is extremely intelligent, probably smarter than I will ever be, knows more languages than I can ever begin to imagine, master, and he, I think, plays like 15, 30 different instruments, I'm sure. We only see him play a couple of instruments, but he is a very intelligent, educated, academic brain, which is why he can have such in-depth conversations with Oliver, who is a grad student and like 7 years his senior. So a complaint that I kept seeing was that there were too many references to books that the average person doesn't know about. I don't know half the books that they were talking about, but you know what? It's okay, because they knew what they were talking about. And I'm sure it was beautiful stuff. And sometimes it was in a language that I didn't understand. Thank God for translations. But it seemed a little pompous at times to some people. And some reviews were like, oh, the author just wanted to list off a bunch of titles that nobody really knows about just to sound intelligent. Let's see how many titles we can throw out there. I don't think that was the case. I think this is just reinforcing that Elio is very book smart. Oliver is very smart, which Oliver is always telling Elio that he's really smart. And that also adds to Elio's insecurities. He's book smart. He's not life smart. He knows his text. He knows how to read it, write it, translate it, play it 10 different ways. But he doesn't know how to normally flirt with Oliver. He doesn't pick up on social cues. And it's just, I believe it, because he was raised with no television by a professor who's just as educated and loves learning. You know, Elio's dad is all about knowledge for the sake of knowledge, which is lovely. It's a beautiful concept. Knowledge for the sake of knowledge, everybody. It's the way to go. So, yeah, the references are way over here. I don't really know half the books. I don't think I recognize a whole lot of them because they're also like classic Italian texts, and I never took Italian lit in college. Did not. So it's also really philosophical and very existential at times. And it's just conversations, I think, that two very academic minds would have. So for me, it was just really authentic, and I didn't really need to understand all the books that they were talking about. I didn't need to know the minutia of the literary text that they were referring to. I got the big picture. They are, in their own nerdy academic way, flirting with each other. They're telling each other that there's something there. I just don't get the little jabs and the little details. And you know what? I don't need to. I will never be that smart. It's okay. They can be smart for me, and they can be lovely doing it. So that was not an issue for me. If you think you'll want to know every text in here, more power to you if you do know all these texts, because my goodness, you're smart. But I don't. I don't think the average person will. But it does not take away from the fact that this is still a beautiful, lovely story. And it's lovely and beautiful, and Oliver and Ellie are still gorgeous and lovely and amazing. So, take that as you will. May or may not bother you. Did not bother me one bit. Got over that fairly quickly. I was just astounded that Oliver just kept telling Elio, oh, play it like this. No, not like this. Like this other famous, classical musician that I don't know any pieces of. But they knew. And they knew what they were doing. They knew they were flirting. And I appreciated it because it was lovely and cute and beautiful. So that's all that mattered to me. And I guess the last thing that has popped up, not as often, but I know for some people it's a big deal, is the sex. I'll call it nookie. The nookie in the book. I personally don't appreciate an excessive amount of nookie in my books. It's just, especially if it's unnecessary and it's poorly written, and it's just not for me. I don't quite like reading about it if it doesn't add to the story. I am very happy with the story being like, they kissed, and then you pan out, and they did the nookie. They had the nookie, however you want to say it. But you don't need to read about it. So, the nookie in this book was really well done. It was lovely. It was very poetic. It was beautiful. And you forget that you're reading about the nookie. You forget that that's what they're doing, because even though it mentions the physical connection, it's Elio's first time with a man. So obviously there is stuff that needs to be said about how he's feeling, how he feels after the nookie. It's told in such a poetic and beautiful and lovely way that I forgot that that's what they were doing, because they were focused on the human experience of the bond. It wasn't about the two bodies. It was about the bond between Oliver and Elio. And it was the bond becoming stronger, the bond accepting each other, even though they were both a little nervous. And it showed right before the nookie happened, because there is nookie. You see Oliver out of character a little bit. You see the side of him that's not cool and smooth and suave and sweeps Elio and everybody else off their feet. He's nervous, just like Elio. And it's very human and very real. And he doesn't really know how to act. Elio doesn't really know how to act. And at the end of it, after it's done, I was kind of like, whoa, I just read an entire nookie scene and it was okay. Because he focused on the human connection. And it wasn't about two men doing nookie. It was about Oliver and Elio becoming closer, their bond strengthening, and it was lovely. And there is sometimes where the nookie is a little more in your face, and it might be a little more just in your face. It's just in your face. But it's done in a way that's really vulnerable and experimental. So when Oliver kind of jumps in and he's like, hey, what are you doing? It's not the typical walking into the self-nookie scene. It's more, oh my gosh, please don't do that, Oliver. What are you doing? You're making me feel super self-conscious. And it's beautiful because it's Oliver accepting Elio for his little quirkiness and his little weirdness and his little bizarreness. So the nookie didn't bother me because I feel like it did add to the story. It added another layer of bonding between them. It added another layer of intimacy. And it was just so beautiful and poetic. And I will keep saying this book is a beautiful, lovely book. Over and over and over again. So, those are pretty much the concerns that I really saw with the book as far as other reviews that never once bothered me. I really don't know of anything that bothered me in this book, except, of course, my last point. This book was completely told from Elio's perspective. We never really get inside Oliver's head. That kind of makes me sad. I want to know what Oliver is thinking. And the only but that I can give this book is that I want a response from Oliver. I want a concrete response, but that's not Oliver's character. I know, Torty. It's the way it is. That's what you guys are telling me. I know. But I still want it. A response, anything. A chapter, a paragraph, an epilogue. Damn it, a whole freaking book. By all means, I will eat that up. But just something to hold me together. Because this is the end of the book. And it's hard for me to accept that it ended the way it did. So that is the only thing that I can possibly ask Mr. Andre Aciman, whose name I keep butchering. I'm so sorry, sir. That's all I want, is just a response from Oliver telling me that Elio was what Elio was to him. And that's about it for topics of discussion, honestly. I was not bothered by anything in this book. I was in love and enamored with this book and everybody in this book, even the people that annoyed me, because there were a couple people that annoyed me. Not off the top of my head, so obviously it didn't annoy me enough, but I didn't like everybody, and I didn't always like Oliver and Elio. I was sometimes so mad at Oliver for just being Oliver. And then I was just mad at Elio for just being dorky. Like, what are you doing? No, just do this, and I know what to do, but I'm not 17 years old and insecure with myself and Oliver. So that was probably me just like, what are you doing? Let's go. Let's move this along. Don't waste the precious 6 weeks that you have with this person. But it was part of the story and part of the tale and the beauty. And it was part of my very real relationship with these two characters that I didn't like them all the time. And that is okay. Because if you like someone all the time, you probably don't know them well enough. I mean, maybe you guys have someone that you like all the time, which, good for you. I don't. But, you know, if you have that kind of specialness with someone, that's great. That's lovely and treasure it. But flawed, beautiful, real characters. And that's about all I can say about it. It was beautiful. That's it. Topic of discussion pretty much done. I think this is the last real Call Me By Your Name centric video that I will do, because now my entire freaking channel is going to be about this book. So we got to move on to something else. Unfortunately, but these guys will live in my heart forever, be with me forever. And then in November, when the movie comes out, this is going to resurface. You're going to revisit it. Hopefully I have more followers, more subscribers, more viewers, and we can all gush and celebrate the beauty of this, because I anticipate the movie is going to be amazing, because I refuse to believe it's going to be otherwise. So, on that note, thank you guys for stopping by, and be safe and take care, and let me know what you guys thought about my topic of discussion, if you guys want to hear something differently. And thank you for stopping by, honestly, and I hope my gushing hasn't gotten too annoying. I'll catch you guys later. Be safe. Bye!